Welcome back everyone to the Hello World Guide. This is another episode of the C programming series. In this video we are going to learn about arrays. So to begin with, what is an array? So an array is basically a way to store a large amount of data in a single variable. So what I mean is that for example, let us consider a situation in which we want to store a bunch of student scores. So if I go ahead and say student, you might go ahead and say something like, I create an integer and call it student1. Let's say student1 score. Let's do that, like 1 score, if I can actually type that, and let's set that to 30, let's say. And we can go ahead and copy this like that. I can paste this multiple times, and you might want to change this to student2 score, student3 score, student4 scores, and student5 score. And if you want to pass this to a function, you will need to pass each of them separately, and if the size of this changes, then you might want to update the function as well, and it will just not be very manageable. So instead we can use an array. For that we can go ahead and we can just do it like we create a normal variable called student scores, not scores, and then we can put these square brackets after that. This represents that this is an array, and inside of these square brackets we are going to set the size of the array. So the size of the array, for now we are going to say 30, and let's just say not 30, let's just say 2 for example, and let's do that. And if I just end it here, this is now an array, which means it consists of 2 values, not 1, and we can initialize this using curly braces. So if I put curly braces here, I can say 0, and I can add values separated by commas. So if I add more values than are supported, it will give an error because this is supposed to be 3. But if I actually remove this from here and I add an initializer, it will automatically take the number of values here and set this accordingly. So that would be a lot better. So let's set the student scores here. We can like add as many, and it will automatically set the size here. So with that, now we can access this student scores quite easily, and to do that, let's go ahead and say printf, and let's say let's just say student score, and let's just print the student score real quick. But what we will need to do is, if I go here, when we are actually accessing a variable from the array, we of course do it like we do normally, but we need to put this afterwards and provide an index here. And index means that we just need to provide the actual number that we need. So you might be tempted to provide 1 for this, but this will actually be wrong because indices start at 0. So this here, the first one is actually element 0. The first element is element 0, the second is element 1, the third is element 2, element 3, and element 4. And that is pretty awesome because now it allows you to get that, and it will actually display the scores correctly. So I'm going to just put some random scores in here just to test, so that it can do that. And if I go ahead and run this program, let me first clear this and go ahead and say gcc hello.c hello, and then go ahead and run this actually. So once it compiles, it should not give any errors, and if I run this, you can see it says 50 because it accesses the first one. Now we can use a for loop to print all of them. The way we'll do that is, of course, we'll create just a normal for statement. So we'll go ahead and say for, and Visual Studio Code, if you press tab, it will automatically generate it for you. So let's go ahead and say integer I, and is going to be 0, I is less than, and since we have 5 variables here, we're going to say I is less than 5, not less than equal, because we want I to only go from 0 to 4, not 1 to 5 or anything. We are going to say less than 5, and then we're going to say I plus plus, and in here I'm going to go down here and press alt and up arrow to move this here, so that the print statement is inside this. And here we are going to perform a couple of important changes. We are going to add another one here, student this score, but humans would like to read it as student1, student2 instead of student0 and student1. So we can go ahead and say I plus 1 here for the actual student number, and then we can go ahead and say student scores I. And if I do that and I go ahead and run it, what you should see is that it says student1. Actually, I forgot to add a new line. Let me do that real quick because this is going to cause problems. So let's go ahead and run it now, and you can see it says student1 score is 50, 2 score is 80, 3 is 30, 4 is 90, and 5 is 20. Now all of that works really well, and we can of course take this value using scanf as well, just like we do normally, and this student's course is going to work perfectly. Now that's awesome, but now we are going to actually learn about strings. So how does a string is basically, as we know, a piece of a text, or basically a set of characters that we can combine together for different purposes. And unlike most other languages, C does not have a string type. So a string is essentially a bunch of characters, so it's an array of characters. So we're going to say character, and let's go ahead and say name, and let's add this here, and you can actually this creates a string. You can go ahead and literally just go ahead and do this, and if you do that, you can see it actually works without any problems. We can go ahead and say hello here, and it will automatically convert this into a set of characters. So this is a string, and what we can do to print it, if I go ahead and say printf, and actually since this is a name, let's just say the hello world guy, because why not. Let's say the hello world guy, like that, and let's go ahead and say printf. So let me go here and say printf, and here I'm going to say let's just go ahead and say hello, and after that we are going to put the name. Now in order to output strings, you use the S formatting option, so like that, and then we can say name here, just like this. So say name. Now go ahead and compile this and run it, and you should see it says hello the hello world guy, which means our string system works. Now we can of course have the user set this name, so we can go ahead and say something like printf, and we can go ahead and say what is your name, what is your name. We can ask the user's name, and we can store this name variable inside of the name variable that we have got. So I can go ahead and do that. And there is one difference though with using strings, which is that when we are doing scanf, we do not put an and sign. Of course we put a S formatting option, but then we just put name, no and sign for strings, and for any other kind of array you do not put an and sign. The reason is the reason we'll actually learn that reason in the next video when we learn about pointers, but for now just remember that you should not put an and here if you are putting a direct array. If you are, for example, if you are taking just a single character from an array like name 8, let's say, then you are supposed to put an and sign. But otherwise, if you are taking like the whole array, which you can take like a whole string, you can't take a number array as far as I know, but you can take a string. So when you're taking a string, just do not take just do not put the and sign here, and the reason for that we'll learn in the next video. So if I go ahead and actually compile this and then run it, it says what is your name. I can say something like you can put whatever you want here, hello world guy. I'm just going to put an acronym, and if I do enter that, you can see it says it correctly, and you can put whatever name you like here and it will output that correctly. Though there is still one problem, which is that, for example, by default you can see that this is the hello world guy. If I make this like ABC, let's say, and I go ahead and run it, and ABC is 3 characters, and if I enter any name that is longer than 3 characters, it will it works for now. But if I enter a name that is much longer than 3 characters, it can cause problems in some cases. Sometimes it does not give problems, and sometimes it does. It depends, but the general rule is that this is not like the most ideal way to do things. What you might want to do is you might want to actually remove all of this and go ahead and put like a maximum limit, let's say 512, because it's highly unlikely that the user actually out and says anything that is greater than this, so it won't actually cause any problems, hopefully. So yeah, this was pretty much it for this video. In this video we learned about arrays and strings, so I will see you in the next one, in which we will learn about pointers and clear a lot of confusion surrounding arrays and strings, because arrays and strings and pointers go along together in C, so you can't understand one without understanding all of the others. So we'll do that in the next video, and make sure to stay tuned for that, and like and subscribe so that you don't miss that. You do not want to miss the pointers video, and I will see you in the next one, and bye.